Hello, everybody. My name's Chuck, and I love to read and I love to act, especially voice acting. And I've had some folks suggest that maybe I do a little bit of that on camera, so that's why I'm here today. So I hope you'll pardon me while I get into persona. Today's selection, Kitties, comes from a book called The Joke's Over by Ralph Steadman, which of course you can see on the screen right behind me. Rumble in the Jungle, Ali versus Foreman, 30 October 1974. No room at the International Kinshasa. A midnight chat with George Foreman and Joe Frazier steals my pen. Hunter sells our tickets and jumps in the deep end. In my studio, after my trip to the Ali Foreman fight in Zaire, I wrote, "Now I must write." I would scribble stuff onto large pieces of drawing paper and send them, with the drawings, to the editorial department of Rolling Stone. Hunter hated it when I tried to write anything, so it was a smuggling activity. If it had anything to do with one of our joint efforts, it never worked. Hunter was worshipped, and his words were treated like the Ten Commandments, and he was Moses. He would say, "Ralph can't write," which was true, but curiosity at least compels one to try. I always said that I could write better than he could draw, which was also true. But when it came to writing in any form, Hunter got mean and possessive, and he had every right to be. Screw him. There was no chink of light for me anywhere. If Hunter had wanted to draw, which he did, and take photographs, which incidentally he was very good at, why didn't he? I would have welcomed the opportunity for him to try, just so that I could mock him. He mocked me horrendously, and mockery was an entirely new dimension for him after our first piece together on the Kentucky Derby. Here was this innocent from England whose daft comments had a certain edge to them, but only because he was too steeped in his American way, and like millions of ordinary, as well as some thoughtful Americans, had forgotten what lay beyond the perimeter of their fractal shores. They had forgotten that the rest of the world lay there. That is exactly why America has no sane foreign policy to this very day. Why the French heaved a huge sigh of relief when the US took on North Vietnam and found themselves in the biggest mire of jungle warfare they had ever known. They sure as hell didn't know where Vietnam was until thousands of body bags, each containing the remains of their boys, started to arrive back home in disquieting numbers. Nobody knew where Vietnam was, and neither did they give a shit. All they knew was that their boys were dead. It was the Great Awakening for America and the beginning of a protest movement that is still alive today. Try to imagine that there existed at the time millions of immigrants who had left Asia Minor, Europe, Ireland, and even England to find a life in the New World, and were suddenly confronted with a vague involvement in something they thought they had left behind. This was their biggest nightmare, and yet 30 years later they were suddenly confronted with a new menace. A black man, Muhammad Ali, a dissenter, was going to fight another black man, George Foreman, in the blackest place on earth. We must make it fun, they thought, a noble event for the sake of the soul of America. Now they were on to a winner. Two black guys hating each other enough to go beat the living shit out of each other, prepared to go back to their homeland, and no matter who won, it would be a triumph for America. Black men and black women were going home to show the world that poverty was history and there was not even the whisper of a color bar. This was post-Watergate, when every white bastard who had clawed a position to the top of the heap appeared to retain the great democratic vision of equality. They had made it and hung on to their vicarious vision like limpet mines about to explode and destroy the forces of evil. I wish it were so. And if it were true, but like everything else, it was merely bolstering up the heinous soul of a dirty, low-down profit market, watching every punch like a blow struck for American supremacy. My initial effort when we went to Zaire for the Ali Foreman Rumble in the Jungle began as a handwritten diary. It read, "I caught a particularly virulent hot dog in Bruxelles airport. I called the airport authorities and they shot it. Announcer at Bruxelles airport whispers off words of flight numbers to you like she's on the next pillow. Suddenly at gate 6, Bruxelles, my fellow passengers are lay preachers, missionaries, black professors, mustachioed old bills, and strange, uncertain no-nos of extremely well-fixed addresses. As I board the plane, I breathe a last deep breath of fresh air and enter a stuffier climb. Disagreeable body odor lays heavy on my clothes, and I don't think it is me. Well, yes, it is as well. Thank God for the refresher towel given as a handout. Where the fuck are we? On the way to blackness, I think. Bugs everywhere. Wherever I sit, so does a bug. We are now in Nigeria, which is part of Africa. Need a beer. Transit bar. Who needs Nigerian money? The barman in the transit bar accepts £1 and gives me one-arm bandit discs in exchange. Okay, so it's £1 for a beer. Let's get on. 5:30 a.m., October 74. Arrive. Oranges in the trees. Gentle ride from airport to Intercontinental Hotel along straight, flat plains. Africans, girls with baskets on heads, saunter along. People wait for hundreds of yards along the mud sidewalk for something. Intermittent, but continuous, like an irregular pulse. I don't know why they wait, and I couldn't ask. Dull dawn sky, slight drizzle. Taxi is broken down, but it works somehow. Arrive at the Intercontinental Hotel, telling the driver in crippled French that if he waits, I'll pay a Bank of America check and pay him. No room recorded for me. Somebody is fucked up again. I argue a little, gentle and beyond reaction. I wait. Ralph! God damn it, where you been? Hunter, whiskey with ice in one hand, credit card, wallet in the other, sweating, early morning red eyes, weighs in heavy. My natural, gentle English manner restrains him from pulling the head off the concierge, avoiding a complete showdown. We can't change your traveler's checks, monsieur. 9% pas cher, mon chèques, monsieur. Not bad for a cripple, eh? You don't have a room here. Nous n'avons pas une chambre ici pour vous. My oui, I do. Rolling Stone, 500,000 sales in America alone. Booked me in, assured me, guaranteed it. Sorry, sir. Please, 10 minutes. I just hit the strange lethargic no that stops your adrenaline dead. You can stand in the same mind-given length of time amidst any conversation or any human twitch you just had and look at each other. Him on one side of the counter and me on the other. Immovable. Irresolute. And at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning, nobody moves from their appointed spot. Not me and not him. Hunter moves, but he is already deep into something else. I have no possible inkling of what. I go along. I follow him out of the lobby, carrying everything with me, and stagger into an Avis car, carrying all my luggage, the rain covering me like the fear that at this moment in time is taking hold of my mumbled brain. Already? This is it? Not already. I'm innocent. I've just arrived. Hunter has a friend with him, Bill Cardozo of the New York Times, masquerading as an R. Stone reporter, stoned after 6 weeks of Zaire, heavy dope and no way home. Happy, sort of, but resigned and a tiny bit hopeless. Hunter starts the car in gear, stalls, starts again, grinds on reverse. His credit cards flutter everywhere. Jerks forward, drink in hand, left spilling. Bill sways and snuggles up to Hunter involuntarily as the car tears away and out of the car lot. Bill sways again. Hunter misses a turn, swears, spills more drink. Does he really know what he's doing? The car is in second all the way, engine revving, hot, oily smell. Car is on fire, or should be. 6 blocks one way, 3 another, half a turn this way, 2 double backs, 4 wrong turns. We arrive in flames. The club is on the corner. Remember, it's 6 a.m. Bill disappears. We look for him in a dirty early morning room, just the smoky dreariness of afterwards. No one but a man finishing the dregs of every glass in the place, and us looking about, lost and up for grabs. Where's Bill? Hunter asks. Why, Bill? We just had Bill in the car. What are we doing here? Look for Bill. Why? Who's Bill? See him 2 blocks away, hunched, droopy, unsteady, walking home in the wrong direction to the Memling Hotel. Follow him how many blocks? Try 3. We practically run him down. Hi, man. I'm just going home. Gotta sleep. Steadman needs a room. Be my guest. Just one moment, say I. Where are we? Why and who? Okay, never mind. Who needs it anyway? Hunter, by this time, is past anything sensible. He pulls out a container of Nivea skin cream, dips his fingers deeply into the white glutinous glob, and smears it down his throat like a frog swallowing a fly. Got a sore throat, he said. This filthy African humidity, like sucking on a swamp. Hunter and I leave Bill and drive back to the Intercontinental. Drab newness and drizzle in the turgid heat. Hunter has already read my predicament, my pathetic posture. Okay, I have arrived, and just for a moment, Hunter takes control and has words with the receptionist. No room? What kind of hotel is this? We don't just arrive from halfway around the room and then fuck off. What is the tenure of my room? You are booked in for the week, and it is a double room, monsieur. Hot damn, Ralph, you can sleep in my room. Do you have any weird habits? No weirder than yours, I suspect. Have his bags taken up to room 824. And you have your American Express card with you? I did, and all that was settled. Let's have breakfast. They serve whiskey and daiquiris when you have the house snake omelet. Just kidding, Ralph. Mine's the snake omelet, I said. I always have that when I'm tired. I need to change some traveler's checks and my underpants. No time for that now. Let's have breakfast, and then we can get to Ali's training camp. I need to ask him a few questions. Such was the security pulsating through every jungle clearing in Zaire that we never got to see the training camp of Muhammad Ali or any one of their party. However, in the dead of night, at 4 a.m, a party of George Foreman's protection posse paced George through the corridors on the 8th floor of the Intercontinental Hotel, Kinshasa. At that point, no one dared to interrupt the champ's routine with something as banal as an interview, and even a few inquiries delivered while running along beside him. But I fell in step with him just to ask a few simple questions. Just one simple question, actually. The posse moved forward to stop me, but realized from the beatific smile on my face that I was clean. I wanted to ask the simple question, what you gonna do when all this is all over and you are the champ, and you'll have a lot of time on your hands? Nobody fights forever. You're right, man. You're the first to ask me that. I'm going into the dough business. Dough business? Aren't you into that already? 5 million ahead right here. Win or lose? No, man, the dough business. I'm gonna make bread like my mama used to make with her bare hands. It's something like I do. I can beat the shit out of dough. I'm gonna be a baker. In fact, a grill machine was famously named after him years later, and he advertised it on TV, making a lot of dough from it. Oh, that, of course, well, what a noble ambition. And I really mean that, because all this schmagerhasses will pass. You have it all worked out. Good man, good luck. I couldn't keep up, and I slumped against the door of room 824. Who's there? What do you want? It's me, Ralph. Let me in, I've got a scoop. Only hack journalists get scoops, Ralph. What did you get? Only a one-to-one chat with George Foreman. He wants to be a baker. A baker? What kind of insane bullshit is this? You spoke with George Foreman about bakery? Okay, Ralph, I knew you were perverse, but this is insane. Honest, I pleaded. It's really what he wants to do. He can't be a boxer forever. You're right, Ralph, as always. But what we need is the real story behind this scam. Where did the money come from? Why does John Daly have such a low profile? Or indeed, is he even in the country? I heard he's been arrested. How does David Frost fit into all of this? He's not exactly known for his love of boxing. John Daly was one of the shadowy businessmen behind the fight. He's a satirical businessman, I said. He does everything for laughs, which makes sense. If I had his money, I would want to squander it all on an impossible dream, and all this seems like Mobutu's impossible dream, to put Zaire at the forefront of world politics and sporting prowess. The next day, I took a leisurely, observant walk around all the bars and coffee dens scattered throughout the hotel. Most were full of journalists with theories, but the bars were surprisingly empty. It has to be remembered that the original fight had been scheduled to take place 6 weeks earlier, and the intensity of public interest was at breaking point. I don't think many of the journalists had been to Africa before, and Zaire's President Mobutu was intent on milking everyone for everything they had, including their newly acquired currency, the Zaire. Conspiracies were everywhere. Then, during one of Foreman's training bouts, he sustained a cut from a sparring partner. It was an accident, nothing suspicious, but the rumors ran wild and accusations followed and grew into gospel truths that the injury was a fix to give Ali more time to train. A majority of the journalists went home, intending to come back when the fight was rescheduled. Some, however, stayed on and succumbed to the easy lifestyle of drugs, cheap beer, and sex. We had waited at home, however, until the fight was rescheduled, but we expressed our doubts. On 1 October 1974, I had received a handwritten letter from Hunter, a wild and angry broadside to my suggestion that we should perhaps cut our losses and leave the fight alone. It was hardly rock and roll. Have you lost your fucking mind? We have to be in Zaire on October 30th for the fight. We've already paid $1,000 deposit for our hotel room. I'm keeping the same place and plane and hotels reservations I had, but changing the dates out to October 23rd through November 1st. You should do the same. Tell Bailey, Andrew Bailey, English Rolling Stone editor at the time, to fix things for you, and also to update my arrival in London to November 2nd through the 15th. Same hotel, same typewriter, etc. I promise your drawings will fare better this time, if they're any good. You can't quit now, Ralph. We have to go through with it. Call me here in Woody Creek. Okay, H. I'd moved into Hunter's room several times a night. There would be a knock on the door. Answered always by Hunter. A voice on the threshold would ask, "Can I have some more medicine, man? I really need some medicine." Hunter had purchased a huge plastic bag full of African grass for the equivalent of about $40. It was about the size of a regular golf bag, and there was plenty for all who came in search of the medicine. Some had been in Africa since the July cancellation and had got into the grass and anything else that was going, and now wandered around with faces like African voodoo masks, looking for the next fix. Serious junkies after 6 weeks is quite impressive. Hunter had shown great foresight, which helped his own profile. Many had lost any memory of why they were there in the first place, but had always managed to wire back to their papers for more funds to enable them to get the story of a lifetime. Some had gone native. The stories were all dope-fed fantasies. Wandering into a bar one morning, I ordered a beer and whiskey chaser, which was my tipple at the time, and moved to a corner to watch for scenic interest. Sitting at the end of the bar was Ollie's cheerleader, Bundini Brown, an old childhood buddy of the former champ, or so the story goes, whose job was to keep the circus on the road. His real job was to berate and demoralize anybody who chose to come to the bar for a drink. After an order had been placed, Bundini launched into his tirade, which I wrote down verbatim. "Yo, put your money where your ass is, Whitey. Blue eyes, sees green grass. Yo, motherfucker, yo, kiss my back. I'm your daddy, motherfucker. Yo, my son, I'm gonna kill you if you say I ain't your daddy. Fuck yo, motherfucker. We gonna kill you, let you kill yourself. Yo, Spuck, we from the root to the fruit." Many moved away to find a small corner to hide. I thought his outburst was pure gonzo and a great subject for a drawing. I went right back to the bar and said, "Same again, barman." Bundini got right back into the same spiel like a record and went for me. "Have one on me, and thanks for the idea," I said, and stuck it out until he really did begin to sound like a stuck record. Hunter wanted to go to the market for something unusual. We were crowded by people trying to sell us anything and everything. "I want something I can't get in Colorado." "Well, you can get most things here that you can't get in Colorado." "Good point." "How about an elephant?" I said. "Good point, Ralph. What I need are some tusks." "Yeah, good thinking, Hunter." But he was off looking around like a rat after filth. He found a tusk seller, it was still legal to sell them then, and wanted to buy a pair he had on his stall. There was a lot of banter, and $300 was mentioned. A deal was struck there and then, and out came a wad of non-negotiable American Express traveler's checks. The poor bastard trying to strike the deal just saw the dollar sign and was transfixed. This was his lucky day. Hunter showed his passport, assured the poor man that this was indeed his lucky day, and signed off a worthless token in exchange for the tusks, which, as far as Hunter were concerned, were what he had come to Africa for in the first place. I have a poor Polaroid of the transaction actually taking place. We saw the week through and spent hours by the pool watching TV footage of training activities, interviews with Don King, the promoter, the trainers, films of bouts, and Ali giving some of his great monologues. There was one memorable moment when one afternoon a light aircraft flew over us pulling a banner which bore the words, "Mobutu welcomes you to Kinshasa." "Oh God," said Hunter, a half smile on his face, but held back, a faraway look in his eyes, as though he was thinking ahead. He was. "I'd like to hire that fucker up there for an afternoon," he said. "Oh yes, we could write a screamer for that ourselves, Ralph, with those big felt pens of yours. Something to send shockwaves through the nerve ends of everyone here. Something like," and he was looking down through the floor, as it were, "something like Black is Weird." Don't forget the feints and nods with the head as he said this. His head jerked back when he lit a cigarette, like he was short-sighted, couldn't see the tip of it. The fight was scheduled for 10 at night, so that the temperature would be marginally cooler, and by the time it came round, most people were in a frenzy of anticipation. The door to our room was busier than usual, and the huge bag of grass was fast disappearing, which is to say that the bag was still half full rather than half empty. I couldn't figure out why someone wanted to be so stoned to watch the greatest confrontation in living memory. I decided to take a walk and wandered around the hotel lobby, people watching. Damn me, there was Joe Frazier. Impulsively, I went up to him and asked for his autograph. I offered him my sketchbook, and he held out his hand until I thought, oh, hell yes, a pen. He scribbled his name on the white space and handed me back the book, but put the pen in his pocket. Do you ask for your pen back or let it ride? I was pissed off and only glad it wasn't my Parker I'd lent him. Not the most pleasant of people, and I just walked away, went to the bar and got myself a drink. There were a few hundred huddled groups there, and I guessed last-minute interviews were being conducted. Plenty of time to go back to the room before the fight. I had my scoop interview anyway. I must have had a few drinks because a crazy idea entered my head, and I felt bold enough to try it. I went to a phone booth and got the operator. "Number, please," she said. Could you put me through to President Mobutu as one of his staff?" "Who is this, please?" "I'm from the London Times, and I need to speak with him." "I can't give out a number like that, even if I knew it, but I can put you through to his press office." "That'll do fine," I said. What brought on this maniac notion, I will never know. I certainly wasn't high, but my idea was to get myself invited into his inner circle, watch the fight with him, and get myself the first-hand reference I needed to do something spectacular. As I write this, I'm wondering if I did this out of sheer desperation or from a weird premonition that Hunter might have sold our tickets, two of the very best ringside seats in the place, on the very night of the fight. It would be the dumbest gonzo thing he had ever done. What I was doing was responding in the only way I knew how. I was generally so pissed off anything was worth a try. A London Times artist sitting and watching the fight with the president himself? Why not? There were several interchanges with different voices, and then one asking, "Where are you?" It was like I had hit a nerve of interest. "I'm in the lobby," I replied. "Can somebody pick me up? I promise I will keep very quiet and simply observe." I waited crazily by the front of the foyer, looking for what they had described as a dark green Jaguar, but what was I doing? What on earth would this achieve? I waited a considerable time, and then something whispered in my inner ear, "This is suicidal. Do a drawing instead." I imagined the scene instead and wrote a caption for it. Surely my most humiliating moment, even more than having to pretend whining like a lost corgi. Picture of me hanging upside down, strung up by gribbling roots, watching the whole 8 rounds before they cut me loose. Revived me with the tea made from Ipamoea, morning glory, and sending me stumbling into a sheet of dawn rain. Humiliation seems to fascinate Mobutu, who watched my ordeal without once looking at the closed-circuit TV installed for the fight. When I got back to the room, Hunter was on his way down to the hotel pool. The fight was about to begin, but he didn't want to know. He had a towel and a bathing robe, a bucket of ice, a Heineken, and a bottle of Glenfiddich, my present to him when I arrived. It became one of his favorite whiskies. "What's going on?" I asked. "Nothing, Ralph. The tickets are gone. Sold." "What?" I couldn't believe it. "What are you going to do?" "Going swimming, Ralph. Come and watch unless you want to watch fight on television, because that's all there is now." He asked me to carry the bag of grass down to the pool, positioned his ice bucket and scotch and Heineken by the poolside, emptied the grass into the pool, and dived straight into it. It floated on the surface and moved very slowly, but definitely, towards the pool filter, and Hunter emerged through it. "This is it, Ralph. An aesthetic experience. Fuck the fight. You think I came all this way to watch a couple of niggers beat the shit out of each other in a rainstorm? Well, you've got another thing coming. That's our story, Ralph." It was inspired madness, and come to think of it, I wasn't all that keen to see the fight. There'd be replays anyway, ad nauseum for weeks to come. I got it all from there, and talk of gun running from Brazzaville just across the Zaire River added to the crazy romance of it. I didn't care either. What I did care about was something weird emerging from all this talk of the black man coming home to his people. Patent leather Mendele man. Now, please don't look for this in the dictionary, as I made it up. As Africans were called, trying to bond with their brothers in the middle of Africa. There's something daft about the whole event, but someone was making money out of it for sure, and it sure as hell wasn't the ordinary folks. As soon as the fight ended and the huge exodus began. Get to the airport as soon as you can and leave behind every single coin in your pockets, foreign or otherwise, and get the hell out. Don't even think of hiding one single Zaire, Ralph, warned Hunter. We're going to get body searched and we'll end up in jail. Not one single Zaire, Ralph, and don't even dream about hiding one in your nuts. That'll be the first place they look. So there we all were, trying to get on the Exodus special. Norman Mailer was there, George Plimpton and Hugh McIlvaney, to name drop just a few, and every sports writer from the Western and the Eastern and the Southern and the Northern hemispheres, eager to get airborne and away from a place that 12 hours earlier had been the place to be. President Mobutu had anticipated this. After such a spectacle, his kingdom would wilt to nothing, and with it all the sources of ready income would be sucked away in the slipstream of a flying cornucopia. Everyone got the treatment, some more than others. Spare change clinged on the floor. No one but officials were picking it up. It surprised me that we got out with our credit cards, but even Mobutu reckoned that would be going too far and might even put him in the dock. The plan was for Hunter to fly back to England with me to finish the story in London. We would have to stop over and get another flight from Lagos to London the next day, but Hunter started to grumble about even one night in Lagos. We would end up in a filthy, rat-infested jail, never to be heard of again. We would be sold into slavery. These people don't joke, Ralph. When we start to get off, just grab your bag and follow the pilot. Follow the pilot? Yes, I've got an ugly feeling, Ralph. I think they've already impounded my tusks. Just remember, look down and walk with a purposeful air. Don't look suspicious. Put your shirt tails into your pants and move. We'll never see daylight again. Don't look sloppy. We know what we're doing, Ralph. We're going through security with the crew and out the other side and back onto the plane. But I haven't got a visa for the U.S. Fuck your visa. We can deal with that when we get to JFK. Stay here and a visa will be about as useful as a bent credit card. Tired and disheveled as we were, we had moved to the front of the plane and watched the crew to disembark to register whatever flight information was needed before takeoff again for the US. I was amazed how easy it was, except when one of the stewards on the flight turned and wondered what we were doing following them. We're getting back on the flight, insisted Hunter. This is a bad mistake. We have seats. Fuck it. Some are even sitting in the aisles. Desperation is right. White people are easy targets around these parts, and there must be somebody in authority who can vouch for us and let us get it back on board. Mr. Steadman here has had his ticket swapped back in Zaire. He needs to get back to New York in a hurry. I have that steward to thank. He nodded uncertainly and mumbled, just stick close to us. Back on board, we were welcomed with jeers and crude jokes about being unwelcome pimps looking for new business and how our sort were not wanted in Lagos. Drink was flowing freely, and security precautions seemed to have been left behind on the tarmac. When we arrived in New York, I then had a problem explaining why I had even thought of coming to the US without a visa. I would have to stay in transit until I could get a flight out back to England. It was then that Hunter started bitching about his wretched tusks. They had made it to New York, but customs had impounded them. He was raving and protesting as a wronged US citizen who had paid his taxes and upheld the Constitution. Meanwhile, he stayed with me, partly, I think, because the customs storage department was right in the transit area, and this was his big chance. He had actually seen them just on the other side of the low tables where they check your baggage if you get stopped. We found an open bar with no door in one of the wide corridors that connected different gates and terminals. I still had my bags with me to check in again. We settled at the bar. Okay, Ralph, this may be tricky, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to get those tusks, but I need your help. I'm really enjoying this beer, Hunter, and this whiskey is going down a treat. Exactly, Ralph. Just stay like that. Enjoy and pretend nothing's happening. What are you going to do? Something unexpected. Something that will require nerve, calm, and precise timing. Football has maybe been worthwhile after all. Look, you just sit here minding your own business. Forget me, Ralph, but be prepared for a swift and elegant movement. He held up a stern warning finger. Well, warning is a bit strong of a word. More of a be prepared motion. For justice, Ralph. For justice. I sat nonchalantly at the bar, rolling another golden Virginia cigarette. You could smoke anywhere at the time. They were blissful days, and security was lax. There was a time when you could race to an airport anywhere in the world at the last minute, and they would hold up an aeroplane just waiting for you. Passengers were lords of the grail, and we're important. Today we are sacks of shit bundled into flying tubes with a security warning secreted inside every orifice. Hunter loped off towards the customs holding area, slowly at first, and then gradually building up speed. It was a fine sight to see, an elegant figure moving in slow motion. The officers saw him coming, but did not expect what happened next. Lots of people run through airports to reach their gate, but with a full frontal movement, Hunter took off, rising off the ground over the tables, between the two officers on duty, and through the wide-open door ahead. Already he had scooped up the two tusks which were lashed together with telephone wire from the Intercontinental Hotel in Kinshasa, and in one flawless movement, he was out the back door and into the wide corridor where I was sitting, trying desperately to appear nonchalant. Then in another seamless movement, he had stuck his booty beneath my bags and without hesitating had run down the corridor towards the gates, the two officers in hot pursuit. I stared straight ahead at the back of the bar and carried on smoking. "See that?" said the barman, nonchalantly wiping a glass. "No," I replied. "What?" "Some guy just ran past and stuffed something under your bags." "Didn't take anything, did he?" "Bags look okay to me." "Could I have another scotch, please?" "No ice." Hunter and the officers had disappeared from sight. God knows what would happen now. The officers were returning, and I stared at them, sipping my whiskey. They were sweating and looked puzzled. I stayed put and rolled another cigarette. Then I saw Hunter strolling back with a cheap canvas golf bag over his shoulder. He had removed his white floppy hat and stuffed it in his pocket. "Want a beer?" I asked, then murmured, "What happened?" "Later, Ralph, later." "You guys want another drink? I'm just off to get some more ice." "One for the road, barman, thanks." And I gestured for both of us. When he had gone, Hunter said he had stopped in a telephone booth, pretending to make a call, and then when they had gone past, he had slipped across to a travel bag shop. He had seen this golf bag and calculated that it was the perfect size for the tusks. By the time the officers had given up and made their way back to the storage room and tables, I doubt they knew exactly what had been taken. Having stuffed the tusks into the bag, Hunter slung it over his shoulder as carry-on luggage. He then helped me to take my bags down to the transit lounge to wait for my flight back to Heathrow, which was due in about an hour. His own bags were already checked through to Aspen. Hunter got those tusks back to Owl Farm, where they took place of pride over his fireplace. Later, he received a letter from the Customs Administration concerning a pair of tusks. There was a demand for $26 in duty for bringing them into the country. No talk of prosecution, no suggestion of theft or wrongful acquisition, just a paltry claim by the customs services that duty must be paid. They had merely taken possession of them until such monies were paid. Impounded simply sounded like a better word, and of course, it made for a better story. I received another letter from him. He was coming to London, and could I find him a decent hotel? He needed to find the nub of the story. I got him a room at Brown's Hotel, a very smart place just off the Piccadilly, and I was to pick him up at the airport. Living in Fulham made it an easy thing to do. Half an hour to Heathrow, no problem except for the 6:30 a.m. flight arrival, and when I met him, a growling journey into town with him pleading. "What I need right now, Ralph, is a hot bath, some drugs, and a warm body to hold on to." Not a problem for the first request. The other two are going to take a little longer. "I've done my drawings, Hunter. How's that writing coming along?" "Fuck you, Ralph. I haven't even started yet. Please ask around a bit, and remember, we need to set up an interview with David Frost. He knows things that I would like to know. But first things first." The interview with David Frost was set up at Frost's house. When we arrived, Hunter held his tape recorder in one hand and the plug in the other, more interested in finding a socket than in introducing himself. His first words to Frost were, "Hello, David. Hang on a minute. I'm looking for a socket for this machine, so don't say anything yet, David. I need to get it all on tape." He proceeded to climb over the furniture, looking in all the corners to the bewilderment of Frost. Later, I left him at Brown's and started contemplating where I might locate the extra items that Hunter had asked me to find, cocaine and marijuana, as if I were going shopping for a bag of groceries. Strange how it seemed such a commonplace request. We were living in a gonzo time warp. Somehow things would get organized with a few inquiries and a brain rattle. The Chelsea Arts Club popped into my mind, and that became the place to set up a rendezvous once I'd located a dealer. In the event, Hunter met up with the dealer in the chess room behind the ladies' bar at the club. I waited outside, listening to the muttering and snorting going on until Hunter stormed out of the room and said, "Don't ever introduce me to a geek like that again." It was later that night that, after a few phone calls, I found what he was looking for in the most unexpected place through a girl I knew from Bernard Stone's bookshop. I drove him, slumped in the back of my car, to her house, and she was waiting outside. As we drew up, Hunter saw her and with a whoop banged open the back door of the car with his feet. He leapt out. Apparently he stayed all night, having found what he wanted. But our story never got published in Rolling Stone, or anywhere else for that matter. I hope you enjoyed it, folks. I sure enjoyed doing it up. Take care. Catch you again, I hope.